G'day guys, my name's Dave Tran and welcome to another Throwback Thursday edition of the GuitarZero2Hero song tutorial. And in this video, I'll be teaching you how to play Do I Wanna Know by the Arctic Monkeys. A really cool song that has a very fun riff to play. So for the basics of this song, you'll need your guitar and standard tuning and you won't need a capo. Now if you want to master your chords back to front, then be sure to head over to GuitarZero2Hero.com to pick up my free guitar ebook. For this song, we're playing riffs the whole way through. Now the trickiest part about this song is that there are a lot of variations throughout. But to simplify it, there really are only two different types of riffs in this song. The first main riff is what you hear in the verses and the choruses. And the second main riff is in the pre-choruses where he sings Do I Wanna Know. But there's a lot of variation throughout the song, and I'll touch on those variations as we go. So let's start with the intro/verse. And first we're going to start with the lead-in lick. For this lead-in lick, we're going to use our index finger on the first fret of the 6th string, and we're going to hammer on to the 3rd fret with our ring finger. And then with our index finger, we go to the 1st fret of the 5th string. So hammer on, and then 1st fret of the 5th string. And that's it for the lead-in lick. To start the main verse riff off, we go back to the 3rd fret of the 6th string. And that continuous motion, the lead-in lick into the first note of this intro verse, should sound like this. So you hold that note up until the end beat after the 3, and up here in the tabs you'll see the timing below all the tab as well. So that will help you know how long to hold out each note. Then our next little phrase will be 4 plucks. The first pluck will be a hammer on from the 1st to the 3rd fret of the 6th string. And then we go to the 1st fret of the 5th string. And then for the 3rd pluck, we go to the 1st fret of the 4th string and we do a hammer on to 3rd fret. And then we go back to the 1st fret of the 4th string. So those 4 notes that we pluck are... So there's 2 hammer-ons there. The 1st pluck and the 3rd pluck for that 4-note phrase. After that, for our next little phrase, there's just 2 plucks. We're going to go to the 3rd fret of the 5th string and we're going to slide up to the 5th fret and then go back to the 3rd fret with our index finger. So it's slide up and then back to the 3rd fret. And that's on the end beat after the 2 in that bar. And so far we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Our next little phrase is 4 plucks. We go 1st fret of the 5th string, 3rd fret, and then we slide our finger up to the 5th fret, we pluck that, and then back to the 3rd fret with our index finger. So that 4-note phrase. Then our next little phrase is 5 plucks. We start on the 1st fret of the 5th string, and we go to 3rd, and then we go up to 5th fret with our ring finger. And then our next pluck's going to be a hammer on from 3rd fret to 5th fret. And then our final pluck for this little phrase goes 3rd fret of the 6th string. So that 5-note phrase, 1, 3, 5, hammer on, 3. And then we'll hold on to that note up until the 4 beat. And on that 4 beat, we'll play basically the lead-in lick, which is hammer on from 1st fret to 3rd, and then 1st fret of the 5th string. And then we go back to the start, so it just continuously loops. And so far for the verse riff, we have this. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 4. 2 and 3 and 4. And then you just continuously loop that over and over again. So now I'm going to play this at 75 and 100% speed with a metronome, and I'm going to loop it twice so that you can practice and play along too. 1, 2, 3. Now we get to our next section, and it's just a verse variation, and this just happens before the pre-chorus. As I mentioned at the start of the song, a lot of this song is just variations of those main riffs. So for this verse variation, the first half is exactly the same. The variation happens at the second portion of this riff. So after we have this 4-note phrase, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and we're now going to just hit the 5th fret in that next bar and hold that until the 4 beat, where we'll hit the 10th fret with our ring finger on the 5th string, and then we'll slide down to the 6th fret because that will be the next note that we're going to hit in the next section. So this verse variation will sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 2 and 4, 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. And that's it for this verse variation. Very simple. It's exactly the same as the verse basically. Just those 2 notes at the end are a tiny bit different. Now we get to the pre-chorus of the song. And as I mentioned at the start, there's only 2 main riffs that are played throughout this whole song, and this is the second one. And every other time this riff is played is more or less a variation of this main riff. So after we've slid from the 10th fret down with our ring finger to the 6th fret, we're going to hit the 6th fret for the first beat of this pre-chorus. So 1 and 2 and 3. Now on the end beat after the 3, we're going to play a 5-note phrase. It's going to start on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. Then we go to 5th fret, 6th fret, back down to 5th fret, and then back down to 3rd fret. And in one smooth motion. So that last note will be on the 1 beat of this next bar. And then on the end beat after the 2, we go down to the 1st fret, and then back up to the 3rd fret on that 3 beat. So far we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Our next little phrase will have 4 notes. We'll start on the 1st fret of the 5th string, 3rd fret, and then go to the 5th fret, and then with that index finger go to the 3rd fret of the 6th string. And that 4-note phrase will sound like this. And then our next little phrase will basically be the same as our lead-in, so it'll be the hammer-on from the 1st to the 3rd, 1st fret of the 5th string, then back to the 3rd fret. And then the last note of this bar is back up at this 10th fret of the 5th string, and you slide down to the 6th fret, because that's going to be our first note in the next section. So far for this pre-chorus riff, we have this 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's it for the main pre-chorus riff. Now the second time that we play this, there is a slight variation. The first bit's pretty much the same. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... But then we go to the 3rd fret of the 6th string and we hold that on for 1 bar. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we hit it again in the next bar. 1 and 2 and 3 and then we're going to play the lead-in lick, which goes to the chorus. So the lead-in lick is a hammer-on from 1st fret to 3rd fret, and then 1st fret of the 5th string. And that happens on the 4 beat. 4 and then we go into the chorus. Now I'm going to play this first pre-chorus at 75 and 100% speed. I'm going to have a metronome, so feel free to play this back to practice along too. that's it for the first pre-chorus. Now that pre-chorus riff is the basis for all the other pre-choruses and the outro of the song. As I mentioned at the start, there's two main riffs. The first one's for the verse and the choruses, the second one's for the pre-chorus and the outros. Now that you've learnt the main riffs, everything else now is more or less a variation of what we've learnt. So it's really beneficial to play along to my playthrough at the end of this video, which has all the tabs. So now we get to chorus 1, and chorus 1's going to go back to our main original riff. There's one really small variation to this, and it happens the second time we played this riff in the chorus. I've highlighted it here, but it's one extra note that's played on the first fret of the 5th string. So for that line, it'll sound like this. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, and 4. And that's it for the first chorus. As I mentioned, all the variations are very small. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, so it's best to just play along to my playthrough at the end and follow the tab, and you'll see all the variations there. At the start of the second verse, there's no guitar, but then halfway through, it comes back in to the main verse riff, which we've already learnt. So we have the main verse riff and then the verse variation riff that leads us into the pre-chorus. Then we get to the second pre-chorus, and the second pre-chorus is pretty much exactly the same as the first pre-chorus, but the second half is a little more involved. There's some extra notes here. Up here, I've just highlighted the changes in the second pre-chorus. So the second half of this second pre-chorus will sound like this. 1, 2, and 3. 2, Then we get to the second chorus, and the second chorus is almost essentially exactly the same as the first chorus, except our highlighted note here is something that differs, and it's that 10th fret slide to go back into the pre-chorus, but we're going to call this next section the outro. So the second half of the second chorus will just sound like this. 1, 2, and 3. 2, After the second chorus, we get to outro part 1. Now, outro part 1 is going to be essentially the same riff as the pre-chorus. The first two sections up here in the tab are going to be looped, so you're going to play them twice. And then the next two sections after that are almost identically the same, with the exception of one note. That one note happens on the last bar. And instead of going to the 3rd fret of the 6th string normally, we'll go to the 1st fret of the 6th string. So this second section of outro part 1 will sound like this. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. So now we get to the outro part 2, and the start of it's going to be essentially the same as our general pre-chorus riff. So we start on the 6th fret and go 2, 3, 4. So that line's very similar. And for our next section, we're going to repeat this twice. And it's very easy. It's just the 3rd fret of the 6th string. And we just hold this note until the end beat of the 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And then we're going to play that 4-note lick that goes 1, 3, 5, and then back to the 3. So, like that. And we're going to hold that note until the end of that bar. So this section is 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 2, and 3, and 4. And repeat. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 2, and 3, and 4. And then we just end this song with a single pluck on the 3rd fret of the 6th string. Now I'm going to do a full playthrough of the song with a vocal track on top for some context. And I'll have the tab up here so it'll be nice and easy to follow along to. So feel free to play this back as many times as you'd like to practice, play along to, and see how you go.
day, crawling back to you. Never thought I'd calling home without you, 'cause I always do. And maybe I'm too busy being lost to fall for somebody new. Never thought it through, crawling back to you. So have you got the guts? Been wondering if your heart's still open, and if so, I wanna know what time it shuts. Simmer down and pucker up. I'm sorry to interrupt, it's just I'm constantly on the cusp of trying to kiss you. I don't know if you as I do. We could be together if you wanted to. Do I wanna know if this feeling flows both ways? Sad to see you go. I'm sorta hoping that you'd stay. Maybe we both know that the nights were mainly made for saying things that you can't say tomorrow day. Crawling back to you. Never thought I'd call it home. You had a few, 'cause I always do. Maybe I'm too busy being yours to fall for somebody new. Never thought it through, crawling back to you. If this feeling flows both ways, sorta hoping that you'd stay. That the nights remain made for saying things that you can't say tomorrow day. Do I wanna know? Too busy being yours to fall. Sad to see you go. Never thought I'd call and die. Do I wanna know? Do you want me crawling back to you?
Hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. Be sure to head over to GuitarZero2Hero.com to pick up my free guitar ebook. If you've enjoyed this and you want to see more in the future, then be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell next to the subscribe button as well, just so you don't miss out on any updates. It would mean so much if you hit that like button, leave your thoughts, comments and questions and requests below, and I'll see you guys next time on Guitar Zero to Hero. Cheers.